Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Silent Podcast, the place where everything but silent. I'm your host, Isaiah, back again with some pressure cooker interviews. Yes, we have two fantastic guests on for today's interview. We got the winner, Robbie, and we also got Chef Ed from Pressure Cooker Season 1. Guys, what's going on?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Good,
What's
good.
up? It's good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yes,
Absolutely.
sir. We also got Jason, one of our other podcasters, actually been covering this season. So if you have not checked out, if any of our listeners have not checked out the coverage for this and you love Pressure Cooker, make sure you go check out those recaps. But we're very excited to have you guys on today. This is our second line of interviews. We've only had Gina on. So, when we were able to get, you two, I was so hyped. I was like, bet, really was banging with y'all during the season. I guess we could just start the convo. So, we can start with you, Robbie. Obviously, big egg in the room. Like, you won. I'm not sure when you guys played this, but like, how do you feel, man? Like, it's been a minute. So how's everything?
It feels great. I mean, we filmed last spring around March, April, so it's been a long time. So it's great to finally share it with everybody. It's great for everybody to finally see it. It's great for us to see it and see all the shit that went on behind the scenes that we didn't know about. Most of it we knew about, but I think that both Ed and I were surprised at like the length that certain people were willing to go to make it to the end. But it's great. I mean, I don't have the money yet, so it ain't that great yet. But it is great to finally share it with everybody.
Yeah. So Robbie, I have to ask then, because when you got crowned the winner, they gave you this little piece of yellow note. That was not the check.
It was not the check. And ironically enough, so I put that, you see the clip where I put that in my pocket, right? Well, Wardrobe lost my golden ticket. I had to hand all my clothes back to them. They washed it and give it back to you. Well, when I got it back, it had no golden ticket left in it. So it's missing. It's out there in the world somewhere. Somebody in LA has got my golden ticket.
That sucks.
And how about you, Ed? Obviously, the show has been doing well. I think I was kind of surprised y'all didn't have like an Instagram page or nothing, but shout out to you because I've been peeping like your Instagram lives and everything. You've been having everybody on and all that stuff, and you were just a dope character this season as well. But how about
we
you?
got we got Instagram pages. Robbie is king social media, by the way. But we got Instagram pages. So things have been great, man. I can't really complain at all. It's been Robbie and I have both done TV before, like network TV. Netflix is a different animal. Like
it sure is.
It's global. Like so, I had we both did grocery games at one point in time, and I won that, and I was on a little media tour, and I did all the basics all over though. I did every market. I did something major. Good Morning America, you name it, right? But I wasn't getting, messages from Sao Paulo and Israel and Russia and Ukraine. Like seriously, so it's been absolutely insane. And then I thought it was imperative for us because we have a chat. All the chefs, we all have a chat, and a lot of us speak pretty regularly. And I was like, listen, we have to, after seeing it, for context, there's a lot that has to be said. And so I was like, listen, I'm gonna do this show, and I'm gonna get all you guys on, man, and we're just gonna shoot the shit, and say a lot, but don't say a lot, and hopefully provide some context, and also wet people's whistles so they can want to be more invested in what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. And because, Ed, you said both of y'all have been on other food shows, I apologize for not seeing these episodes. I feel like I watch every food show out there. I love Guys Grocery Games. So I got to look out for your episodes. But what was the thing, because you've done this before, what was the thing that surprised you the most walking into this house to compete on this show that makes it so different than any other show out there?
So first and foremost, I think it was the best part of the show. But then, it didn't pan out the way I thought it was. The best part of the show is that it wasn't about a series of celebrity judges. It was about us and the dynamic that we had to withstand and grow on top of these challenges. And so to me, that was the magic of it. Having no outside influence and developing, in the true pressure cooker form, developing these unique and robust relationships very fast and rapidly, and then having to make decisions on how to go about to conduct yourself. It was I'm pretty sure. Listen, I'm pretty sure. So on the show, I dug Robbie the Oracle. I'm pretty sure they were on the cuff changing stuff because Robbie was saying it.
Oh.
So every time Robbie said something, like it was like it was for sure happening. And so it's crazy.
Oh, wow.
It was literally
Wow.
crazy.
So they cut all that out, so you didn't really see that. But by like day 1 and 2, I was dad. Day three on, I was the Oracle because I kept guessing shit before it was happening.
Yeah, he just knew.
Yeah,
Well, that's
and then Mike made the joke that Robbie, I'm pretty sure they're just listening to you, and they're like, "Yep, sounds great, we'll do that."
Yeah.
Well, I
Facts.
love hearing that from y'all because covering this season the last few weeks, we've often speculated. Was it all predetermined? Did the producers change their plan based on the results and the outcomes they hoped for? So I love to hear that it was changing on the fly day by day.
I can't speak to whether
sorry,
it was changing or not,
okay.
but we didn't know each day whether it was going to be a team challenge, who was going to be judging it. They really kept all that under wraps. So I can't. I don't know what the plan was going in. I can't say whether they changed it or not based on us, but I will say that they never once hinted to us that it was going to be a certain way. Even down to the blind taste testers. Everybody thinks that we knew that the blind taste tester was going to be safe from elimination.
We had no clue,
and we had we didn't know that ever. So even down to the final where I was sitting in a room with Sergey and Caroline, I was like, nope. I still wasn't sure when I got done tasting that I wasn't going to be on the block to go home.
Wow. Because you mentioned that, Robbie, I have to ask, because we were wondering this. How long did that standoff, that sit-off happen? Did you have to draw cards? Did you pull knives? Or was it just,
No, so it's several hours.
Wow.
Several hours. I want to say it took about 2 hours between the two of us going back and forth. I was not about to take them from the power of 2 to the power of 2+ in the house. I hadn't been a blind taste tester, and honestly, at that point, if Mike couldn't do it, and Renee couldn't do it, and Serge couldn't do it, I didn't really have full faith that she would do it, honestly, based off of the plates. And I wasn't about to let her have it. So, Serge did step in there and go, Caroline, we'll just cook together. So, that moment is, a real moment and one that I think that he probably wishes he could have back.
Yeah.
But I was willing to draw cards.
I
was willing to play pool, too. I was willing to play pool for it.
Yeah.
But nobody in the house was going to do that. So
you don't want to play pool with Robbie Chester at all, at all.
Out of curiosity, so how was the show pitched to you guys when they were asking you guys to come on, and there was a casting process, obviously, because I know when we did the Gina interview, she was saying that she was pitched to it like it was a show Big Brother. But I was curious, was that the same for y'all, or was it more like a cooking show for you guys?
For me, it was just cooking. There was no hints of Big Brother. If they would have told me it was Big Brother, I wouldn't have won. If they would have said, listen, this is going to be, even though I don't think it was as, crazily driven as a Big Brother, but it definitely has some Big Brother-esque moments. But if that would have been pitched to me, there's no way I would have did it. It's like me, it's like I was pitched at one point in time. What was that show with the crazy thing on Food Network where the chefs do all kinds of Cutthroat Kitchen? I was like, there's no way.
Cutthroat.
I'm like, come on. I'm not cooking with little tiny pots and pans. It was just so, it's very too, that's not what I'm signing up for.
So for me, see, here you go.
There you go.
It was only a matter of time. For me, it was pitched as a mix between Top Chef and Big Brother. So I knew I always wanted to be on Top Chef. You know, it was the only TV show I ever wanted to be on. So, and because I went to like casting calls for Top Chef, I got offered Guys Grocery Games, and then from there beat Bobby Flay, and then now Pressure Cooker. But for me, it was pitched as a mix, and I'm a Big Brother fan, so I was okay with that. But I always knew from the beginning that I was going to step in and play the game based on the food and based off of my personal relationships and stuff like that. Like I wasn't gonna sabotage anybody. I wasn't gonna step in there and lie to somebody's face. And I think that Kristen kind of feels like I might have like been dishonest. She came to me like in her, in the moments where she was up for elimination, and I was kind of like, well, you made salad. and yeah, it was a team thing, and you all chose that your course was salad. But like at the end of the day, you watch enough of these shows, you make salad, you go home.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I played it natural. That was my plan from the start. But I knew there was going to be someone that was going to step in and play it out of both sides of their mouth, and we saw that. So we saw that edited towards one person, but just there was a little bit more going on there that got edited away a little bit. I think people would feel a little bit differently because there were some people that were a little better at it than let's say Gina was.
Absolutely.
I mean, y'all can chop it up if y'all want, or is that you don't want to talk about that?
Let's just say this. So there's a lot of nuances that they didn't show, and so much so about pretty early on, it got real cliquish. Like, I remember Robbie, myself, Brian, Renee had a conversation over around the pool table that like we're just gonna base it off the food. I want to cook against the best. I want to be here around the best, and that's all I'm here for. And very early on, we found out that there was definitely going to be some hardcore alliances, and hey, you got me, I got you, but just on some, I don't care what you do. You can throw a can of sardines on a plate. Oh, it's the best can of sardines I've ever had. And so that was it was pretty early on, and it wasn't there was some more people more blatant than Gino ever could have been. And so like Thurgood line, that was very blatant about how they was going to play the game. It was upfront. It was like after challenge 2, that was it. I'm like, okay, like here we go. So
yeah, and just with only 11 people starting in the house, to have 2 votes at any given time, like from like number 2 on, was like, I remember having a conversation with Renee and going like, I don't have anything against the 2 of them. I think it's great that they like each other and they're teaming up, but like we got to be cognizant of the fact that like every single vote, if the house is split in half, they got 2 votes to start with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's powerful in a game this small.
Yeah.
Like it's not, I mean, if you'd started out with like 24 chefs or something like that, it'd have been a lot harder to get that advantage. But starting out with 11 and then 10 right off the bat, like 2 votes is powerful.
Right. Especially when you throw in double eliminations. So and we knew it was coming. Robbie called that too. Robbie was like, look, 2 got to go. 2 got to go. 2 got to go like today. Sure enough, 2 went that day. So, yeah.
So it was like a cross between like a mastermind and a serial killer. But like my little book, after the first 2 days, I had sketched out the schedule for the rest of the time that we were going to be there. And I was like, I don't know what the challenges are going to be, but basically this is how. And then there was like one day in there where we like didn't cook. And I was like, everybody's like, oh, we're cooking today. And I was like, we ain't cooking today. And they're like, why? I was like, because my little book hadn't been wrong. My little book says we're not cooking today.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, I showed it to the producers. I showed them my little book, and they were like, that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
one question about days off. How much time was there between each challenge? Was it consecutive days or did it vary?
It was pretty. Go ahead, Robbie.
I would say it was pretty much consecutive days. Like I want to say that there was like one day in there where we didn't we were in the house and didn't cook.
Right. We made our own challenge. Yeah, we made our own challenge.
Which they didn't air that, but that shit was funny.
Yeah, that was great. That was
other random question I had just about living in the house. We saw this in almost every episode. You know, when you go to bed, the clock starts ticking and it shows, you know, progressing up to 7 a.m. What happened at 7 a.m. that woke y'all up every day?
Okay, so every day at 7 no, worse than that. So every day at 7 a.m., the lights, like all of the lights. So we're talking about studio lights, like sun would come on like clockwork. And then you would hear in the background. And also how we know the telltale sign that we was gonna do something, that there was gonna be a challenge, was all of the crew, the culinary crew would turn the ovens on. So if we walked by the kitchen and the ovens were heating up, like, oh shit, okay, here we go. There's a challenge going on. Okay. Oh, they lit the pizza oven. Okay. Shit is going down.
We also knew it was time to like go to work because Ed was usually like one of the first people up, and all the good snacks would be gone because Ed was taking them and hiding all that shit. So like you go out there and all of a sudden all you got left is a granola bar and fucking Cheez-Its, and Ed's got all the good shit. Because he would go out. So when the snacks were gone, it was time to play.
Yeah, I shared with the room though, and the early bird gets the worm.
So I did want to ask because I think this is really where the game really gets started. Obviously, you know, the Christian vote happened. You know, it's all that. Something that y'all really did that I thought was dope was when I think it was. I'm trying to remember who it was Gina and Lana. They went to do their thing with Sirloin. You guys like, you know what? We good. We're going to handle this ourselves. And it was y'all, Renee, and Mike, and y'all really killed that challenge. Yeah. Just like a lot of experimental stuff. First of all, y'all food looks so good. I would love to try it one day. But in that high stake moment, like what was going through y'all mind, man? Like did y'all think that this was going to be like an uphill battle, or y'all were like, we got this in the bag, we're going to be fine?
So I will tell you that Mike was pissed. So they didn't really show a lot of that, but when they switched teams, Mike was on a fucking mission. Like it was gonna be whoever was on the other side of that was going down. I can tell you that because I didn't see him as determined the entire season other than that particular challenge. Mm-hmm. He was ready to roll. And I mean Ed was already on the little team that we had I had written down in my notebook, and then the two of them jumped ship, and it was like, okay, well, and Mike was mad as hell. So yeah. I never I just felt like we had years of experience, but more importantly, with people like myself and Ed and Mike being a private chef and Renee we know what people want to eat. So if we are feeding strangers, we are more inclined to say, okay, what are the majority of people really going to enjoy? And I think that's where the core of our menu started with, which was like, okay, we can be creative, but let's make food that people really want to eat. Versus let's make a self-serving plate and put it in front of people and hope they like it.
Right. Also, I think I know because it was purposeful. Our menu was very cohesive. So we went in. So we had first kudos to the Pressure Cooker culinary team. We had a plethora of sundry items as well as fresh produce and all the best meats and seafoods that you could ever want. So we were like, listen, we're going to utilize as much of this fresh produce as possible. And it was that was the basis of our menu, and it was very cohesive. So it took you through a journey, and every component was very much thought out. It was purposeful. It wasn't just for the sake of trying to be fancy or trying to look good. Everything was very purposeful, and it was a lot of crossover. So yeah, everybody was responsible for one thing, but everybody had a hand in everything else across the board, and that was the magic. That was, and I'm just prideful. So like whenever somebody they didn't say this, but we kind of felt as a unit that they thought they had the upper hand. Like they was okay. They're about to spit at the 92 Bulls. Nah, no fucking way. There's no fucking way. It's like they have no idea. Like, look, you obviously don't have Google because you haven't done a search and figured out that you got heavy hitters over here. And now Mike is like a honey badger. He was like literally foaming at the mouth. He was like, there's no way we're losing this because there's no way.
He looked at me at one point because I questioned putting duck on that menu. He looked at me. He said, "Robbie, if we lose this because of that duck, I will walk out that door.
I'll go home.
I will send myself home.
I'll go home."
Well, I agree with everything y'all are saying. That was the biggest difference for us watching it and talking about it was the cohesion of your meal versus it looked like you all collaborated on every course, like you said, Ed, and the other team, it was like solo dishes. They hadn't talked about what their theme was.
Right.
But I have to ask you, both y'all and Robbie, was this in your book that you were going to be cooking for your family members? How surprised were y'all to see them walk through that door?
So I said, what if it's family? And everybody was like looking at me and they were going, like, I remember Gina going like, nah, it's too early for something like that. Like, no. And then we're cooking and I see Mom and Caitlin walk in. I look at Ed, I lose it. And then Ed turns around, Ed's losing it. And Ed looks at me and goes, we got shit to do. So it's like we did a little hug and got our shit together and went at it. But like I did call it a little bit. But in fairness, I kind of called a couple other things too. So like
yeah,
I didn't hit the nail right on the head, but it was one of the options.
It was a great one though. That was an awesome moment for not only for us but for our families. And there's not many moments that you get to share with your loved ones in that environment to where they played a part. So I will be forever thankful to Netflix for that.
Yeah, truly special moment. My father's no longer with us, but my mom still is, and I know that she's not. None of us are going to be here forever. So to be able to share that moment with her on TV is huge for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it was just so great to watch. My favorite part of the Survivor seasons is the loved one visit, and so I just was so happy for y'all to have that shared experience. And then your team wins, and the other team. How, Lana's up for elimination. And I just wanted to ask y'all if, you had both been working with her, was there anything else you think you could have done to help save her in that round?
So, first off, we had to defer to what we didn't know. We wasn't really paying attention to what the other team was doing. We were too focused. And so, based off the book, right? So we read the book. And based off the book, Lana should have went home. Just off the book, right? But what the spiel that was given was that the glaring things that were wrong were things that she had to do with, that she actually did. And she didn't take part in helping with dessert, and everybody else had a hand in, and she made the gnocchi, which was Caroline's dish. And that's the main portion of her dish. So I'm like, okay, well, why? Well, she took on more, a lot more to help carry the team. That should be looked at in a different way instead of as an Achilles heel. So obviously you saw Robbie was pissed. I was pissed too. They didn't show a lot of that, but I was highly upset because that was not how it should have shook out, in my opinion.
If you had done it based off of the feedback in the book from family, she had the best dish on their team. That hands dish down. had hands down the best feedback. Like, it was probably the only dish that I didn't see anything negative about it at all.
Right.
Like, they had problems with every other dish. And I honestly, like, not to talk shit or anything, because we had a commanding, win there. I think it was 8-2. I think the only two that voted for the other team were two people that looked at a plate and said, this is my spouse's dish, or this is my... So Hamachi Crudo... There's a vote. And then green garlic foam and gnocchi, I think there's a vote. So if I had to guess, they were the two votes that voted for that menu, and everybody else voted for the other one. So even then, their families are playing the game.
Right.
So But
Yeah,
based
that
off
one's
the
rough.
book and the feedback, there absolutely is no way that she should have gone home.
One,
Yeah.
I'm glad y'all
Pissed.
are talking about the book, because I have to ask, we heard Ed say many times this season, the book is the Bible. How influential of a role did the book play in your experience on the show, the way you were voting round after round?
So for
So
me personally, not to cut you off, Robbie, sorry, but for me, the book. The reason why I said the book is the Bible because that's how I voted. So if
Mm.
our judge was the patron, okay, so we get these reviews at night, just like if we was in a restaurant, right? Or we get a Yelp review, or whatever the case may be. Even though we know we intended to do something differently, if the guest says X, Y, Z, that's what it is. And so that's the way I went with it. So like even down to so like Robbie saying, with that particular challenge, the way it read, like she had the by far best dish on their team. And so it was a no-brainer for me with those things. That and the book was a visual indication that even things you thought that would go another way, a la the panic cotta, it really didn't matter what you thought. It's all about the guest, right? And so that was the book was crazy, but in that whole entire thing, whoever was the judge had their own interpretation how they were judging too. So you have to look at that as well. So
So Ed,
that's
so and not to cut you off, but Ed and I have both done TV before. And when you do like guys' grocery games, one of the things that like he beats into your head is if this challenge says that it needs to be partially forward, then it better damn well be partially forward. So like, and that better be the star of the plate. So like coming from the TV background, I think Ed and I both looked at all those challenges that way. That like if it was a cheese challenge, the cheese should be the star. If it was a chocolate challenge, chocolate should be the star. You don't have a
right,
cheese challenge and go play hide the cheese.
right,
But I think that people that were judging it didn't necessarily like judge in that manner.
right.
I know that I did when I judged, but I think other people did not.
Right.
Well, and speaking of the judges and how everyone else approached it, was there a particular round of rankings that surprised you the most?
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Yeah. The last challenge, the chocolate challenge. There's no way. I'll stand by it.
Absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. He played
Yeah.
that game. He lied to that. He lied to that camera. I don't care if he's watching. Serge, I love you. I think you're supremely talented. I wish at your age I was as talented as you are. But I'm telling you right now, you lied through your fucking teeth about which dish was better on that challenge.
Yeah. There's no way. So at that moment in time, I went in. I was so laser focused on to make it, indisputable. Like there's no way this can't win. I didn't care who I was up against. It didn't matter who the fuck was in that kitchen. There was no way that I felt because that it was gonna happen. Like my favorite part of that challenge, and I didn't even realize I said this, but so Caroline and Robbie and Mike out there, I'm like, oh, what chocolate are you using? I was like, all of them. And I'm using them in all different ways in a manner in which it was cohesive though. And so I felt that was total another gameplay. And so I'm fine with that. And the masses have spoken. There's not, you can't deny that, and so, and Robbie would tell you better because they tasted it. They all tasted everything. So there was components that were tasted in. And again, not taking away anything from Gina or Renee. I just thought in that I had the stronger dish by a landslide, and it wasn't even close. But you saw what happened.
Yeah, for me, the rankings for that particular challenge, and just to be clear, all three of those plates were delicious. But my ranking for that challenge would have been the opposite way, based off of me tasting it, and me seeing the plates and everything like that. I mean, if you were physically there and you saw those plate ups, Ed's plate was like Four Seasons, and the other two were like Hampton Inn. Like, not to knock them, but like the distance between the plate ups alone was like huge. I will say that little succotash shit that Renee had underneath
that shit was
shrimp,
it was delicious.
It was delicious.
That was delicious.
It was delicious.
It was delicious.
The dish altogether wasn't my favorite, obviously, but that shit was delicious. But Ed's was delicious. It was beautiful. It was technically sound. It showed that he was trying to squeeze every single millisecond out of the competition. And it also showed, probably a little bit too much so, whose plate it was.
Yeah. The other challenge, I'll say this, the other challenge that I thought there was, the rankings were ass backwards, were the cheese challenge. And this goes back to how it was judged. So the dish that should have won by far, to me, was Robbie's dish. And not just because it's sitting here, but it was cheese forward, right? And so if it's cheese forward, if I'm the judge on cheese forward, ricotta is low hanging fruit. Everybody knows it. It's not, anybody, listen, it's low hanging fruit. There's some other caveats in there too, which we won't even go into. But if you're going to take a pecorino, do a budino, and you have this charred, he brulee some pecorino. He had the plate. I tasted it. I tasted the strawberry and the plate on it, and it was delicious. And like, I didn't really fucking think you could do that with pecorino. To me, that was the elevation of the cheese. So that should have won by a landslide. And so it wasn't. Mike wanted to play hide the cheese. I want to know what's there. I don't want to taste it. And he said it. I don't want to taste it. I don't. Yeah. And so that's not the challenge, bro. It's not the challenge at all. Take the hardest cheese to work with and make something delicious with it. I think that's the win. So, yeah.
Yeah, but funnel cake and liquid nitrogen ice cream won that one.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, so was there any other, speaking about on cooking, situations where like you guys are like, crap, like this might screw me over? Because like we saw, for example, Brian's food not sitting the one challenge, Renee with the whole the fish situation where the I forget what it was,
the sous vide, the sea bass and the beets. Yeah.
So was there any other situations for y'all that was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a disaster?
So I'll answer from a different perspective. I think I know what Ed's answer is going to be, but for me, like one of my, like me playing the game, like not from a culinary standpoint, I really didn't have anything that failed from a culinary standpoint. But when I was the blind taste tester and I figured out that it was them against each other, and I'm looking at these plates and I judged it honestly. And I'm like, man, I gotta put Mike under Renee on this because I'm doing it honestly. And it just like a few missteps there, but I was like, man, if he goes home, this is not looking good for me. But I still voted him into but because her dish was just better that time. It just was. From a culinary standpoint, the bison probably. I don't know whether the oven just quit on me or what, but like I was looking at the bison and I was cutting pieces to get pieces that were right. Medium rare, medium, because there was a whole section of it that was not. My bad.
Yeah.
Like, shit happens. You move on. You serve it. They made comments about it, and I do think that in the edit, the comments were accentuated about that.
Where they said it's still breathing.
Yeah.
Because, but Ed was sitting at the table. The lamb was not rendered either, but you didn't see those. You didn't see those comments on the edit. So.
Yeah. There was for me, I had a moment and I wish they would have showed this because I turned to Robbie. This is during the 4 seasons challenge. I don't know. Maybe it was just too much shit going on the stove, and so we had like every pot in the world on there, and so I had the stuff for the soup. That was the first thing I did to make sure that it could get cooked in time. And I looked up at the 15-minute mark, and I'm like, dude, this shit's not cooking. It's not. I only had some of it. I had one component. Half of the soup that was done, and the other part was still hard. And Robbie turns to me like, he said, figure that shit out. Figure that shit out. And so they didn't show this. They actually showed a part of it. I strained everything, put it in a couple smaller pots, and then I took most of it and deep fried it. And that's how I got it, and actually probably lended to a little bit of more of the caramelization flavor notes that you might have gotten from the parsnip portion of the soup. But yeah, that and I was literally like, why is this shit not boiling? It was the first thing I put on, so yeah.
By the way, that's the one dish from that challenge that my wife and my mother keep begging me to make. They want me to make that soup.
So I want to ask, because we're talking about different challenges and stuff, which round do you feel was like the hardest for you to conceptualize your dish and what you were going to create?
To be honest, for me, the food portion for me, I'm sure Bobby has a little different. I'm sure that, well, no, maybe not, but the food part was the easy part. As far as personally, my portion of it, the hard part was making it my thoughts, making them fit in with the team when I had team challenges. And you saw that crash and burn with the surf and turf challenge with Brian, and that so Brian and I actually, that dish was a combination of two separate complete dishes. And so we had like 5 dishes that we wrote up. And then we're like, okay, well, I'll take the bison and you want to do the charred octopus. Okay, that could go together. So just making things cohesive and make sense, but not just, so it looks like one cohesive thought process versus 2 separate, complete different things. And I think that was the hardest thing for me.
Yeah, I would say the surf and turf challenge. I think that I love Lana. Obviously, I love her to death, and she, in my opinion, top three talents on the show. I mean, she really is. But when we were on a team together, and we get along great, so like, it's not like we had issues being on a team together. But I feel like we were both so accommodating that if one of us had taken a little bit more of the driver's seat, then that dish would have been a little bit better. But because we were both being so nice to each other, I think that it could have used a few more correlating pieces, if you will.
Ed, were you prepared for that breakfast challenge? I know that you guys weren't expecting that at first, and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna make French toast, and then Brian made eggs Benedict. How prepared were you for all that?
So we didn't know what it was gonna be. We didn't know they was gonna wake us up at 5 a.m. That's one. Because anybody that knows anything about Ed, Ed stays up late. so I was up pretty late, and that was not. I was not happy. I got guys that go work breakfast. That was not what I wanted to do. So and it wasn't supposed to be French toast. It is, yes. So it was. So when you make your dish, you write down the description and the name, and so it's pain perdu, which is basically French toast, but it just sounds way better. But I also understand the masses have no idea what the fuck a pain perdu is. So they dumbed it down. French toast. It sounds really marginal. I just wanted to. This is the one point in time where I was trying not to make my dish stand out so that people know it was mine, but to no avail. Plating wise, I think everybody would know that was my plating style, just because of how it's minimalistic and a little slightly elevated. And I was not going for that initially. I wanted it to be. I didn't want it to be able to be selected as mine, but all the flavors I felt were there. I made the horchata and. Use that as the custard, and I wish I would have done, if I had to do now, I would have done it with pork belly instead of pancetta. I took the comments from Lana as that being something that would have, it was a little tough, the pancetta, because I kind of canned it a little bit. But I was super laser focused on that. That's also one of those dishes that I didn't get everything on. I think having that churro crisp would have just put the thing over the top, and it would have made it more cohesive as far as the horchata vibe. But I was proud of it. And
so I wanted to ask Ed you another question, because we saw how Robbie approached this challenge, but unfortunately you had already been eliminated at the monochromatic challenge. That round, which I thought was one of the most difficult challenges.
I would love that.
What
Oh my
color of
God.
food would you have made?
Okay, so my first choice would be green. I know that Mike did that, and that's just because my head goes the most naturally occurring things in nature are green. So if I couldn't have, if you'd have thought of a green or whatever, you'd have picked it first. I would have my next would have been orange, like Bobby picked, because that's a smart choice, right? But if that would have been a fail, it'd have been yellow. I'd have been yellow, and I had my whole meal planned out as far as what I would have did. So I would have played off saffron. I would have probably did a milk and a beer poached cod or something with some saffron in it. That'd have made it yellow. So I'd have been yellowed out because yellow is, I think you can manipulate yellow in a manner in which it would have been great.
Well,
So
when
I was this close, so one of the options was black.
So I was just about to ask about that.
Doing black.
Yeah,
And
black,
doing
black
a
would have been
full
nice.
white, full white and black plating.
Okay.
But I went with
Robbie,
orange because of the proteins.
I love hearing you say black because yesterday we did this podcast about it, and my co-host, I actually said black. That would be the color because I think it would have stood out, and the food critics would have appreciated the risk of swinging for the fences.
Black would have been the sexiest that you could have done, but you had to have been flawless in your execution because you know we're talking about Squid Ink and activated charcoal and shit like that. So it can be done, but you'd have to be flawless.
In that challenge, Robbie, I just want to compliment you because we saw you really shine in your leadership skills. The way you were directing the kitchen, empowering the line cooks, quote unquote, your fellow competitors. What was that experience like for you, both being the leader and then also having the other contestants lead you, where we saw you do a great job of, microplaning ginger? Really underutilizing your technique.
Yeah. So that's great. I mean, in hindsight, I feel like he gave me the hardest thing that he had left to do. But so that was a beautiful moment for me. And not a lot of people ask about that challenge, so I'm glad that you guys asked. Because it was like, okay, it's down to the four of us. All of the politics are gone at this point. Sergaline is gone. It's just the four of us there. So there's not a whole lot, and we don't know how the next vote is going to go, but we knew based on the timeline that not everybody was going to make it. So I wrote the menu based on the strengths that I knew that they had. So I knew that I had to do an appetizer and an entree. And I knew that based on what I had seen, what their different strengths were. Mike is just a technical ninja. So having him cook my salmon for me. Now I might have beat him if he didn't overcook that one piece of salmon, goddammit. But it might have ended up a little bit different, but hey, it ended up pretty good. And then I knew that Sergey also was good with protein, but Renee's sauces, condiments, side dishes, whatever, are just slamming. Letter perfect in consistency and stuff like that. So I basically wrote that menu based off of, okay, I have prep time to get it done by myself, but then I know what they're going to be good at the day of. And we all looked at each other before that challenge, and I wish that they had shown this part. And I was like, first of all, there's an opportunity here to screw somebody else over by not being a good sous chef or not being a good whatever. And I'm telling you that I would much rather fail at my dish than fail you at yours.
Absolutely.
And we all stood in a circle and agreed the same exact thing. Serge, Renee, Mike, all agreed the same thing. I don't know how the conversation started or who started it, but we all were just like, I will not go out. I will not send somebody home because I failed on their dish.
Absolutely.
I will go home because mine failed. You heard that from Mike, where he was like, look, if you I can't. He's like, I could live with myself if I screwed mine up. I can't live with myself if I screw yours up.
And that's a chef credo. Like you don't want to fuck up somebody else's. Like the most focused I was in that whole entire kitchen was sous chef and Ferrari. Like there's no way. I'm like whatever you need me to do, chef. I'll run to this wall. If we got to move this building 2 inches to the left, I'll get outside right now. Let's start jacking this bitch up. it's got to go. So
it gets me emotional to talk about it because people ask about that the entire time, and I've never seen another human being work that hard for someone else to win a prize than he did for me, and it really touches my heart.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that once we're starting to get towards the end of it. So first of all, Ed, because Robbie picked you, Mike picked Lana. How was your reaction finding out that you got selected to be Robbie's sous chef? That's the first question I had.
Well, after watching it or previously
Both,
beforehand?
either or.
Okay.
Either
Okay.
or.
After watching it, I was second place pick, but it's okay.
This is the first time he's brought it up. This is the first time he's brought it up.
No.
Man.
No, but I understand. I totally understand, and I'm fine with it. But what they didn't also show is when I was exiting the house, as Robert was helping me pack my 900 shoes, I said to him, I said, dude, give him hell. A win for you is a win for me. And I told him previously, if there's anything I can do to help you get across the finish line, I'm willing to do it. I meant that. Like I was, while on the show, I was rooting for Robbie. I was rooting for Brian. I wanted these guys to win more so than myself. And it was that's just the type of guy I am. So when they told me like, hey, let's get your shit together and we got to go. And when I got there, they didn't tell me who I was going to be the sous chef for. So when we walked in the door, so all that you saw, that was like in real time. And I was like, oh, it's go time. So I was obviously very humbled and very proud. And then it became like, okay, let's go to battle and let's make sure that we push you across the finish line for sure.
And actually, before I get to Robbie, because I was always curious, were you guys all in the same place once you guys got out the house, or like?
Okay, let me tell you. Let me tell you how this shit goes. Right, so you don't see anybody, and they don't want you to see anybody, and it makes it actually when you think about it, it makes for good TV. So because they don't want you talking, they want you to have everything in the world to say when you get that mic on you, and so they make sure that there's no way in hell that you have any contact with anybody else. And so, we didn't have any conversations, there wasn't any, kites being flown, any of these things happening. So it was very much you're sequestered by yourself.
Okay. So Robbie, obviously, and Ed, if you want to chip in, you can as well. What was the game plan when you guys were like coming up with like your whole plan for the final meal? Like how much prep needed to go into it, and when you guys actually had to execute, like what was going through your mind during that?
So another thing that they didn't show in the show is like, one, Mike is a guy of extreme faith in God. Mike is a Christian, and Mike is very faithful, and he practices his faith every single day. I found that to be inspiring as someone like throughout my adult life is kind of like wavered, had a skeptical father, and like those influences came into my life. But throughout the process, took Mike's lead, prayed a lot towards the end of the show, especially. And it was one of those things that like this meal that I had come up with that I'd had with my dad, that still to this day, like I make those 4 menu items on menus all the time, was just like the inspiration for that menu. Wow, that menu I could do in probably 2 hours, like in its original form, and not really sweat it. So it's like, okay, how do I take what I've learned? And the beautiful part about being in this house, and I just had so much gratitude about being in the house and what I had learned from everybody, that I just felt like it was a duty to take and put a piece of each one of them on the plate. So every single dish, I was like, okay, here's a technique I learned from this person. Here's a technique I learned from this person. And to really put all of them on a dish as an homage to like my family and my culinary upbringing, but also the education I got from them on the show. And then just you know, I had the list once I had the menu written of prep tasks, and basically just went, once Ed was there, I wrote an E or an R next to it. We set the list in between the two of us, and we just divided and conquered.
Oh, for sure. And then the next day, you know, you've already, you know, you have 90 minutes to prep before the courses start, and the contestants start walking in. And this is something that I noticed about you, Robbie, is that you were engaging with every single person that walked into that kitchen. And I wanted to ask, was that planned to like strengthen those bonds, thinking like they're going to be determining who wins? Or was it just your subconscious, you're just engaging personality, or was it to get the votes?
So I didn't want to, but I'm one of those chefs that's always worked front and back of the house. So like those instincts just kind of kicked in. I want to make sure the guests feel welcome. In this case, it was, you know, the people that we had lived in the house with. It was our former castmates and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure they all felt welcome. I didn't want to, but also the kitchen was an L, and I was on the side of the L facing the guests, and Mike was over here on the side. So Mike could very easily kind of ignore everybody versus me. I'm like staring at him as I'm chopping onions. So it'd be kind of awkward if I just looked up and was like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
And then, you know, y'all were coursing. Isaiah talked about, you know, your meal. What was it like for you as a chef competing? Up until this point, it was blind taste testing. You knew the people that you had lived with them, the people that were going to be judging your food. Did that play a factor on how you introduced each course? Because I saw you watching it, you were talking about your family, talking about, like you said, who inspired this dish. And I could see the other guests, and I don't know if you picked up on this, Ed, it resonating with people. And that was such a difference in your presentation versus Mike's, who was just very straightforward. This is the technique I used. And you were connecting your story to everyone else there. How much thought process went into that decision?
It was both deliberate and natural. You know, I had to take a look at it and go, okay, I'm on this high level cooking competition, and I'm going against a guy who has researched every technique in the book, can recite it, has it memorized. Like he eats, sleeps, and breathes cooking more than anyone I've ever seen. The thing that I will say, and I think that as Mike matures, he will start to do this, is a lot of times Mike makes something for Mike. And in my experience, you need to cook for the guest. It needs to come from the heart, and it needs to be something that they're really going to engage with and enjoy. And I think that he expressed the sentiments in like the closing reel about, he did. And I think that that's his point of growth. And I've even seen, like, because I follow him on social and I follow his business, Abode Fine Dining, because I stepped into private chef space, and, you know, he's great and he's doing it already. So I wanted to see what he was doing. So I admire that. But for me, you know, like I lead with my heart. I'm an emotional guy, obviously. I was super emotional on the show for some reasons that I can't really talk about in public, but things were going on back home in my businesses and stuff like that really led it to be a really difficult time for me. So I just wanted to bring it back to home, and I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna lose making my food and being me. And I'm not going to try and be Mike on a plate. And I'm not going to try to beat Mike at being Mike on a plate. Because that's just dumb. For anybody on the show that would have went up against a Sergey or a Mike in the finale shouldn't try to out Mike.
Right.
Sure.
You got to be more you. And that's our blessing as individuals in this world, is like we are put here from beginning to end of our journey to become more of ourselves, so that unique perspective can resonate with people on this planet. And I just stood up there, said my piece. It was from the heart. The food is food that I enjoy, that I would go out and eat. I would go out and order those 4 plates of food all the damn time. I would make sure the panna cotta wasn't as set as it was, but I'll tell you, it was like panna cotta whiplash, because after the panna cotta being made and not set, I was
PTSD.
My shit is gonna set.
PTSD.
And it's set like a brick.
I'll say this for Robbie. And so this is something that nobody's to date, and I've done a bunch of interviews so far, but nobody's touched on this. And so the challenge was to have a culinary journey and a progression in food form as a chef. That's what the challenge was. A cohesive meal from said chef. And there were, as a judge, Robbie had to win me over because I knew what the idea was, but I didn't have the full composed version of those ideas. So either he fell flat or he hit the mark or exceeded it. And so I think that was the difference too for Lana, because she knew what Mike did, but either you fell flat, you hit the mark, or you exceeded it. And also having that complete vision for a menu and the story that went into it, and whether he said it or not, I knew where the components, because we didn't talk about how he was gonna make the dishes. I knew all of the the parts. So I had a box of parts for this car. I know, okay, we got seats in the steering wheel, okay, all the springs, we got the sprockets, but seeing the car done is a whole different ball game. And then the other caveat is this. So I have a shellfish allergy, right? And so on the dishes that had contained shellfish from both parties, they had to still convey that message with omitting the shellfish portions of their dishes. Now, would it still be cohesive? And so all of those factors were reasons that, and of course they can't show all of this stuff, but those are the reasons that for me, head and shoulders above as an experience, Robbie was slaying it. And all of those things, those are all steps into making that, I wasn't eating, I was dining. And that meal, I felt closer to Robbie than ever before because it made sense. The stories that we told, and just meeting his mom and talking about his dad, like I can envision all these things. And that's a mark and the measure of a good storyteller. And that's what we do as chefs, to be completely honest. When people ask me what do I do, I say I make and evoke memories. And that's really all it is.
Yeah, I love hearing that. Thanks for sharing that. And I wanted to ask you, Ed, also, you were sitting there. You're one of the 9 judges. Did you have a pulse on how the votes were going to go as the meal progressed?
He was more nervous than I was. He wouldn't even look me in the face.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I was very, very, very nervous. All I could do is that I felt this, and the only other time I felt that kind of intense pressure is like voting for president. It's like this is important. I gotta make my one vote fucking count. Like I can't fuck this up. And when both candidates, like, oh shit, well, but I'm gonna stick to the what the rules were. These were the rules. And which meal would I want to have again? Which meal would I take my family to and be able to line up, cross the dots and I'm sorry, cross the T's and dot the dots? Like, look, everything is purposeful. Everything is purposeful.
Yeah.
Nothing just for the sake of being. And Robbie's execution and his meal was intensely, simplistically complex. And if you missed it, you missed it. And if you got it, you got it. And that's why he ended up the way he ended up.
I appreciate that. And Robbie, what was it like for you standing there in front of the judges while they were casting their votes live in the moment? What was going through your head coming down to that tiebreaker vote that Lana cast, giving you the victory?
It's the most nervous I've ever been. And I pride myself on being a guy that doesn't really get nerves. Even like on Beat Bobby Flay and stuff like that, like you're charged, right? You're focused, but I wouldn't call it nerves as like nervous energy. There's one point where you see my hand, I pull my hand out, and I was physically shaking. Because I just wanted all of the struggle and the being away from home to mean something. And just wanted it to mean something more than the validation. Because look, I knew that there were people at that table that if I had made their favorite dish their way and served it to them with a smile, by their favorite person, they still were going to be Mike's better. Like,
Right.
and that's like, I knew that there was at least 2 of those at the table. So I'm doing the math in my head and going down to it and hearing people's comments and stuff. And like number one, the comment portion of that much longer than what is shown in the edit. So
That makes sense.
the intensity of that built so much more because like the positive and negative feedback to both of us was a lot more than what was shown.
Yeah.
I was surprised by a couple of votes early in the table, which kind of rocked me a little bit, and Ed wouldn't look at me, so I wasn't getting any comfort. I'll tell you who was comforting to look at. Gina. Because Ed wouldn't look at me, Lana wouldn't look at me. Gina looks at me, smiles, and winks at me.
Wow. Well, and like,
and just like that little bit of comfort in that moment, like meant a lot to me. I've told her that since, that like watching her do that, and being able to look to her for that comfort was a lot in that moment, because I'm telling you, like it was intense. Like,
it really was.
It is the one thing that I've ever seen in TV that was more intense in person than it looked like on TV.
Yeah.
There's a picture. There's a picture of us at the table, and I have my head down, my hands closed, and like that's that moment. So that was a long period of time too. That didn't happen fast. That was super intense. Yeah, it really was.
Was there any campaigning going on, or did the judges? Did you have a discussion before the vote started?
So we discussed every single course as it came out in great detail. Like in great detail. Like no, there's been no other discussions like this over food. We're picking apart every little facet. Where the plate is placed. Is it in line? I mean, everything. So there was heavy discussion about why we liked a dish more so than another, and that was where I felt the lines were being drawn in the sand. And there were some that were strictly based in a steadfast on what they believed, didn't matter what was coming out, like Robbie said. And then there was those like me, I'm like, listen, as the dishes come, that's how we're going to talk about it.
All right.
Yeah. So, and I was within earshot. So that was the other benefit that Mike had to being on the side of the kitchen that he was, is he couldn't hear the feedback as it was going on. But I was within earshot and I could hear it. And there were definitely some people at the table that were lobbying for Robbie to not win that.
Wow.
That's a fact.
It was very obvious. It was on the borderline of distasteful, in my opinion. I don't hold it against them, but here's the other caveat that people don't talk about. In the monochromatic challenge, if it had been based off the feedback in the book, it would have still been me and Mike in the finale.
Yep.
It would have still been me and Mike in the finale, just to clear the air. Like, some people didn't feel right about that. I think you could have sat down and had a meal and shut the hell up, but you just wanted to sit there and lobby for one way or the other. I don't blame you for it. I love you. I think you got tons of talent. The 2 individuals that did it, we could probably guess who they are.
Yeah. I didn't know.
I do think that they're lovely people, but I thought that they were sitting there and specifically working against me, which I thought was distasteful.
I didn't know that you heard that shit. This is the first time we had this discussion. I had no idea. I had no, because so it got to a point to where I was like, listen, what? I was just baffled of the blatancy of what the comments were. Like where is that even coming from? Like, it was just crazy. He's right. There was a lot of heavy, not only campaigning but denouncing for the other party, which was Robbie, why this shit is not up to par, up to snuff. It was, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard all of it. And I actually went over to Mike and I was like, dude, count yourself lucky you're standing over there, because they are literally trying. They are trying to dismantle any credibility that I have in putting this menu out. And I'm actually surprised that we didn't see that in the edit, because it was like Ed said, it was so blatant that they came with an agenda. He could have served them cardboard brulee cardboard on a plate, and I could have served them the most perfectly cooked lobster tail, and they would have said, well, he's cooked lobster tail before.
Yeah, but luckily, their bitterness didn't influence everyone else because you got the votes and your food spoke to it, and that's
absolutely
what matters at the end. And I have to ask y'all both this question now. The show's been over; it's been on Netflix, viewed globally the last few weeks. It's a top 10 Netflix show. Yeah. How has your life changed? Has it changed since it's been airing? Since people know you, has anyone walked up to you at the grocery store and to be like, "Oh, Robbie, you're the guy from Pressure Cooker"?
A little bit. Not as much as you would think. It happens in my personal life, so I play pool competitively a couple nights a week and stuff like that. So walking into the room playing pool, it was that I had arrived. But a little bit here and there. I honestly, it's weird because with guys' grocery games, people would spot me, right? Would be by
all the time.
They would spot me. Yep. Yeah. And they would be like, I saw you. By and large, I think much more people watch Netflix and watch Pressure Cooker than watch those shows individually. But I think that our culture is weird in a way now that I'll hear people say that, oh, that's the guy that won that show on TV, in earshot, but they don't approach me.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And same with me. So I've gotten a couple. I get way more messages about
many.
I mean, so I will say this: the amount of love and adoration and just positive feedback that I've gotten from people all over the world, and young culinarians that want to that felt inspired or any. It's been awesome. It really has. Good. There's been a little bit of hate too, but as Robbie would say, my block game is real tight. So so
you will be blocked.
Yeah.
You will be blocked.
It's been amazing. I've had the opportunity to talk to a few young chefs that I can give a little bit of wisdom to. A chef in Abu Dhabi that I talked to yesterday. A couple of young kids that here listen, it doesn't hurt me to impart and help you with a few tidbits of wisdom, or things that I've gone through in my career and just tidbits of advice. So I'm always going to be willing to do that because, somebody did it for me. And so now my reach is a little bit wider. I got to cast a big net and I'll help out as many people as I possibly can. So, what would Robbie do? Right.
Oh, yeah, it's we're really in a fortunate position, and I can tell you the amount of DMs that we all get about the show in support is I wasn't prepared for that at all. I get 60 to 100 a day.
Wow.
Yep. Now all the haters, they never send you a DM because they want their moment in the sun with their 13.5 followers that they got. So they post that in the comments. So my block game and my delete game is real strong. I think anyone that watches a reality TV show on Netflix or whatever and is bored enough to not like the outcome, reach out to that person and tell them they're a piece of shit when they have so much impact in the world that they have 7 people following them on Instagram. That's you need a doctor.
Right.
You need to talk to somebody because what are you doing with your life?
Yeah. It's insane.
Amen to that.
Okay, man. I think that's the end of this interview. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. This has been such a dope conversation.
Yeah.
And just thank you for entertaining us on the show. Much love. Real quick, we just want to give you guys the opportunity to plug anything. So real quick, Ed, like I said, thank you for coming. You got anything you want to plug?
I just definitely want to plug. So IG Live, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I've been hosting my fellow castmates doing a Q&A session. The things have been awesome. The kickoff was with Robbie and Brian, which was amazing. Tomorrow, Monday, I have Chef Gina and Chef Liv, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be a great one. And the other two I will announce after this said one, and just know that it's going to be everybody. I'm getting all the chefs. You just don't know who's coming next and who they're coming with. So it's going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to it, and yeah, that's that. Follow me on IG.
And what is it? What is your handle on IG that people can follow you at?
It's very, very simple. It's Chef Ed Porter. It's very simple, Chef Ed Porter. And I'm trying to keep up with Robbie, and I had to join TikTok, which I'm slow to the game. So it's the Chef Ed Porter at TikTok, and I'm going to call Robbie later for some pointers on how to TikTok.
I was TikTok famous for one video. It had like a quarter million views. Me dancing in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But for me, it's if you're in the Delaware area, in Newark, Delaware, come to Pizzeria Mariana. Enjoy it. I'm going to be hanging out every Friday, Saturday during the day, doing a little barbecue as well, smoking some meats out there, just hanging out with people, doing food that I love to do. And then if you want to book me as a private chef, you can check out my link tree on my IG. It's Robbie_Jester, or you can go to RobbieJester.com and book me as a private chef. I'm available for bachelor parties, date night dinner, divorce parties, whatever you're into. But yeah, just that stuff. Yeah. Follow us all. Support Ed. The lives are a ton of fun.
Yeah,
ton of fun. We really enjoyed them. I hope they keep on for a really long time. We end up, inviting in other people, which I'm sure is the plan for you. But they're really a blast. You get to know us, and you get a little bit of comedy along the way. Especially if Brian's working the line and he gets on the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Robbie and Ed, this has been so much fun. I just want to thank you both so much for joining me. I've been covering the show the last few weeks, enjoy watching it, and just really enjoyed this opportunity to talk to y'all and hear what it's like to be on the show and what you're doing in your careers. And just everyone follow them, go eat at their restaurants, give them all the flowers they deserve. And
Absolutely.
Robbie, you mentioned this in the very beginning. You said you have seen some Big Brother. Before we go, do you have a favorite season or a favorite contestant? Because Isaiah's Mr. Big Brother. I know he's been waiting to ask you this whole time.
So I got his name. One of the OG like all-stars. Dan is his first name. I forget
Dan
what his
Giesling.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
that dude could lie his way out of anything. But honestly, the most recent season, I got to give it to Taylor to be like up for elimination 3, 4, 5 times and
Taylor's
make it to the end. I was Team Monty all the way because I'm a Delaware guy, and I was. But I just knew when she was in the final after surviving everything she had survived that there was like no way that they weren't going to vote for her.
Taylor has to be Gina's muse, though. She has to be. She has to be the one person she looked at and like, you know what? I'm doing that. It has to be.
I am sure she's going to see this. So that's very funny.
It's awesome.
Yeah, Robbie, I just searched up. That is like 6 minutes from where I live, so I'm gonna come get food at some point.
You got listen. Let me say this. So we did shift meal. I'm sorry, we did family meal every night for us, for the chefs, and we had a pizza night. And again, I'm a New Yorker, right? So I'm a little. Pizza's always a hot button for me.
The water's different up there. The water's different.
Yeah. But listen, listen, it was some of the best pizza, period. I swear by it. I told him, listen, I ate so much pizza, even if we did so many kinds. And so, it's chef pizza. So it's so delicious. Go to Pizza Mariana. You have to do it. You have to. I'm gonna pop up too. And I'm gonna eat my weight in pizza for sure. Yeah.
All right. But until next time, have a good one. Bye.
Thank you for having us, man.